Good day, fellow crafters. Welcome back to the Forget-Me-Not Card Company YouTube channel. I'm Tamara, the card creator, and today we're participating in the May 2025 Altenew Educators Video Hop. Our theme this time is Marker Magic. As you may already be aware, one of my favorite things to do with alcohol markers is to use them with my stencils. Stay tuned for some great techniques and tips. Let's dive into this project. Today, I'm going to be using this gorgeous stencil, Courageous You from Altenew. Big, beautiful, bold florals is what I'm looking for today, and I'm also going to be using my alcohol ink markers from Altenew. This time, I'm using the Sunshine Valley markers. These stencils are so lovely and perfect for this technique. Once I have my stencil aligned and right where I want it to be, I begin the work of magic. Now, the great thing about the stencil is you could do either one floral or two florals. And at this point, I'm not quite sure which way I want to go. So I'm going to start with one, sort of put it at the 1/3 part of my paper, which leaves me room for the second should I decide I want to add it later. This is the perfect project to use your sticky grid from Altenew, or any other sticky silicone mats that you might have, which holds your stencil as well as your paper in place. Now, with Altenew alcohol ink markers, there is a light gray line, and this just indicates that this is the fine tip marker. But for our point today, we're going to be using the thicker, bolder part of the marker. So for the first layer, I use the lightest pink, and I go over the rose or the flower part of the stencil, the main part, twice, just to make sure I have deep coverage. From there, I line up the second part of the stencil, and I'm going to use the second darkest shade that's next on my list. With this pink, once again, I go over it twice. You'll only see it once in the video, but I do this step twice. And what I do here is I outline just to make sure I have full coverage, and then just color it in. Once that's done, I move to the third darkest color and just use a flicking motion of my wrist just to create a little bit of contrast in with each of the petals. Then on to the fourth and darkest color, leaving just a little bit of shadowing there, but not enough to overtake my flower. Once I'm done, I go back with the second darkest alcohol ink marker and go over the whole thing just to create a nice blend. Onto my leaves. The green that is in this color combination would look absolutely perfect, but I'm venturing out to tropical gardens today. Now, whenever I'm working with alcohol ink markers, I always put them in order from light to dark. That way, there's no confusion on which order I'm coloring in. For this, once again, I start with my lightest, fill it in, and I do this twice. Once again, you're only going to see it once on camera, but this is done twice to make sure I have complete coverage. Once this part is done, I'll line up the second part of this stencil to create the depth and dimension we all love. Once this is lined up, I use the second darkest in my color palette. Cover all the insides, then on to the third, adding a flicking motion, and then the fourth. Then I go back over with the second marker just to create a seamless transition. As you can see, that color is starting to pop through. Look how stunning that's becoming. Now, I like the way it looked. It would look perfect just as is, but I do decide I want to add the second floral. So I bring out alcohol ink markers from Rose Garden. Again, put them in order from light to dark. so no confusion on my part, and start my magic coloring. Again, this layer is done twice. And this is a very, very light pink next to the floral that we just finished. It almost looks white, not in this picture, but as it progresses, it almost looks a little white on camera, but it is a very, very light pale pink, gorgeous color. Now I'm laying up stencil layer number 2, and I'm going to use the second darkest color, coloring all the openings. I always like to trace the outline of my stencil and then fill it in. Not sure why I do this, I just always have done this, but for me, it works. Then I go to the third, doing little flicking motions, and then on to the fourth. And as you can see, that looks stunning, absolutely stunning. But I want more, lots more. So that means we need a little bit of shimmer and a little bit of shine. So I start with the gold. I like it, but I want to add a little bronze too. And I'm glad I do this because it just adds just a little bit of something when the light captures it. For my sentiment, I'm using this Thinking of You, which I had white heat embossed on black cardstock and cut out with my sentimental dies. I want a little bit of texture. Now, naturally, I waited till that splatter paint dried. Now, whenever you're looking at your embossing folder, remember, bumps are on the bottom. That's how I can always remember it. So, depending on if you want a debossed or an embossed side, now you know how to tell the difference. After I'm done with my embossing, I adhere it to some black cardstock, which is already matted down onto my white card base. It measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I do secure this very thoroughly with my Barely Arts liquid glue. I have found that whenever I use 3D embossing folders, I always add probably a little bit too much glue because I want to make sure all those little nooks and crannies are covered. Now we have texture. Now on to some dimension. The best way to do this is add a little bit of Altenew foam tape to my sentiment, just to pop it up just a smidgen. Any excess, you put it right back on that big ol' mama wheel, and you're good to go for next time. Now, whenever I'm using foam tape, once I peel the backing off, I always add a little bit of liquid glue, and this gives me a little bit of wiggle room should I need it, or it may not be lined up perfectly. Perfect. Love it. Now you can see the texture. You can see the little bit of sparkle from the gold and the bronze. Look how lovely. Hopefully you'll try this technique with your alcohol ink markers. If this video inspired you, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a positive comment for your chance at a prize drawing for one of the graciously provided gift cards from Altenew. For more chances to win, make sure to hop along with the other creators in this collaboration, who appear in the description box below. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.